Sorry, get started a couple minutes late. Just trying to get the hybrid meeting going tonight. Chris. I think I might have been in that photo class, participating tonight, sitting on the deck with your watching it. But thanks for coming. And we got something. Yeah, there's another screen. Yeah. There we go. So I think to start for the people who are here, let's just go around and quick introduction, just your name and you're with the group or whatever. It's just.
Boy, okay, my name is Brandon Chang. I live very close to where I am here as an independent citizen.
Okay.
I'm Marie Berry. I live on the opposite side of the county from here, independent citizen.
David Lonsdorf from the town of Verona. I'm on the board there, and I'm also at Dane County Parks volunteer.
Jeff Jenkins from Oregon, Alberta. Bill Keane, town of Verona and rec committee, and I volunteer for Dane County all the time.
Kelly Elliott, town of Open Creek.
I'm Chris Schmidt and I'm a trustee here at Windsor, but I'm also here as a citizen because I use the Dane County Park a lot.
Tony Braza, at the town of Middleton, I'm on the Parks Commission at the town of Middleton.
Mark Berman, of course. Neighbor of Open Creek.
Tom Larson, citizen member of the Park Commission, here to listen to everybody.
Right, we'll get the staff introductions here in a second, but again, thanks for coming tonight, really appreciate it. Interesting, so this is our third public information meeting on this update, and we did one on the west side of the county back in March, I think that was. And had a couple of people show up for that, not too many, and then we did one at the Heritage Center a couple weeks ago. We had about 12 people show up to that one. But what's interesting is we're kind of on the east side and I'm seeing all the west side people might be over to this meeting.
You didn't email about that.
We did email about that, but this one got a little extra press time, so maybe it's yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for coming. So this is our planning team. I'm Chris James. Been with Dane County for 23 years now. And we've got some other of our staff in the back. Jeff Bright. There's Jeff.
Lindsay Kinky.
Dan Schmidt. Alex Schmidt.
And that. Without further ado, I will introduce.
I got my own slide. It's
Yes.
So my name is Jolene Stinson. I'm the Dane County Parks Director. I like to say that I'm still new, even though in reality I've been with Dane County for about 3.5 years now. I'm really excited and grateful that you're all here tonight. So this is going to be the first park and open space plan that I've done with Dane County Parks. I've worked in Parks and Rec pretty much my entire career. I actually spent about 8 years working in DeForest, the village of DeForest here. So right in this part of town, of the county. I live 8 miles away from here. So I like the east side of the county, even though I grew up on the west side of the county, Dane County resident my whole life. Anyway, I'm really excited to be part of the Dane County Parks team for this overview because we're in such a great spot to be in Parks and Rec field, the Parks and Rec field. Because of the pandemic, people fell in love with parks, and now more than ever, I think that parks are essential for all of us. And what I love about the Park and Open Space Plan is meetings just like this. So like Chris said, thanks for coming out on the most beautiful evening of the year to be here tonight to share your feedback, what you love about Dane County Parks. It's this engagement piece that I enjoy the most. So welcome today. Thank you so much for being here. And then throughout the day or the evening's presentation, you'll see a couple of questions. And so I get the privilege to ask the first one. This is a really easy one. Have you ever attended a Dane County Park and Open Space planning public meeting before? Raise your hand if you're here in person and you have. So it's great to see we've got a couple of engaged citizens who've been engaged through past plans, and then we have a couple of people here for the first time to experience what one of these information meetings is all about. So thanks and welcome.
So just before we lunch, I have a little bit more here. There was a handout back there. On one side, it has for written comments, so if you want to scratch something down at the meeting tonight, then just leave it on the table back there for us when the meeting's done. And then as Jolene mentioned, there will be some polling questions throughout the meeting that you can either do on your phone, or if you want to just on the other side, circle your answer on the other side, so. Let's see what we got next here. Oh, back here. Meeting notification. This meeting, we sent out a press release in March 20th, so it was in some papers that we had one TV coverage. What really gets a lot of people is the Dane County Constant Contact email blast that goes out to thousands of people. We did that on March 20th. We posted it to our event page March 20th. And then we actually sent out, I just heard 2 more constant contacts, one on last Friday, and I think another one today, so. This is not this is a public information meeting, it's not a hearing. And although is a person from our park commission here, there's no official action or business being taken tonight. As I mentioned, it is a hybrid meeting too, and we had 59 people sign up for that. And they will be able to participate in providing comments or questions at the end through our chat. Dan.
Give it a shot, see how it goes.
Yeah, let's see if it works. All right, so we have Slidos are polling. What do they have to do, Dan, to do this? Take a picture of that?
No, there might be a QR code that pops up. We had to switch computers. Might have some technical difficulties when we get into that, but we'll see. If you move on to the next slide, you can go to slido.com and enter that information.
Better know.
Says no, I have to vote.
Enter the code.
Maybe everybody's. What do you think, Dan? It works. No, it works. Plug in that number. Slide it up. Give you guys a second. Then you have to enter the number. Anybody want more time or do you? That's okay. That's all right. All right. Oh, Dan, you got it. Those are the answers.
We got 7 responses so far.
Oh, okay. All right, so what is your preferred way of being notified? It's like most people like email. I'm gonna add a little bit to this question, just out of curiosity. Because we don't know ourselves, but what is your preferred way or preferred times for evening? Is this too late? Is this? I know you're all here tonight, so you made the commitment to come tonight. Maybe some people couldn't, so. Okay. There's never a perfect answer for everybody, but I do think we are seeing the email is definitely the most successful way. Back in the day, we used to take out a legal ad in the Wisconsin State Journal, and it's just not very successful. So, all right, let's move forward here. So tonight, we're gonna give an overview of the Dane County Parks system, talk about, oops, we didn't update the slides, some current Eastern Dane County projects. Parks and Open Space Plan overview. Overview of our planning process and the schedule, and then we're gonna talk about the population of Dane County. And then some of the staff level topics that we're kind of thinking about as we start launching off on the plan update. And then after that, we'll do public input and everybody will have a chance to provide comments tonight if they'd like. And we're already on another polling question on this fast-paced presentation. What? Dan, I'm taking your job. What do you think?
Thanks, Russ, that's it.
What do you think of first when you hear Dane County Parks? Natural areas, 100% outdoor recreation. Wildlife trails, lakes, rivers, streams. It's like natural areas is trying to. Oh,
Outdoor recreation. If 12 is about 13.
Alex, are you Boston Johnson down back there?
17. That's good.
Is that about it? All right, so a lot of people thinking about outdoor recreation. And natural areas, trails, not a surprise, nothing on wildlife and lakes and rivers. Doesn't mean those aren't important too. All right, let's move on. Jolene's gonna talk about the Dane County Parks system.
All right, so Dane County Parks is now the largest county park system in the state of Wisconsin. We manage more than 18,000 acres of property. Includes lands that we own and that we have easements on. And our park system is broken up into different property classifications that help guide the way that the property is developed and what type of recreational uses are allowed. So our largest is the recreation parks. This is probably what you think of the most, or most people I think of the most. So these are our high use recreation areas, dog parks, disc golf courses, like access, 5 campgrounds, all of that very intense recreational uses are in the properties that are classified as recreation parks. We also manage wildlife areas and natural resources, where the users are very encouraged to experience the property because of its natural resource features or its cultural features. So you're not going to see a very groomed trail system on those properties. You're going to see small gravel parking lots on the perimeter. Our wildlife areas allow public hunting. So those are less developed properties within the Dane County Parks. We also have historical and cultural sites, 2 county forests. We have over 100 miles of trails throughout our system. We have 3,000 acres of conservation, stream bank and trail easements. And like I said, our 5 campgrounds, and we've got other group campsites as well. And what you may not know is Lucier Family Heritage Center in William G. Lunny Lake Farm County Park on the southeast side of Madison is the Dane County Parks facility. In the past, this facility's been used for meetings and weddings. So you might have attended either a public meeting, of course, meetings that we host, or maybe even a wedding there. But we are really switching the use of the Heritage Center from a private rentable space into an environmental education hub. And so you'll hear me talk about that a little later in the presentation too, as one of our newer initiatives. But starting really last year, we've grown our own environmental education programming for everyone. So you'll see a lot more. If you found out about the meeting today from our email, you'll see a lot more advertising for our family and youth focused environmental education programming there too. That's an overview of our system. It's brief, but I'll pass it back over to Chris to talk about current projects that we have on the east side of the county.
Okay, and before we do that too, I want to give a shout out to Windsor and Katie. Thank you, Katie, for letting us use this space tonight. Let's see, so I am going to talk about some of the things going on the eastern half of Dane County. And for a long time, we didn't really have much going on this side of the county. A lot of our work was in the central area and on the west side of the county. But we actually have quite a few projects right now in eastern Dane County. I'm going to start out with some trail projects. Has anybody here heard of the Lower Yahar River Trail before? We've been on the Lower Yahar River Trail. We are working on the next phase of it right now. That goes from Fish Camp County Park down here in Lake Kaganza kind of through a wetland area on a boardwalk and bridge system, very similar to phase one. And then going into Lake Aganza State Park and exiting out at Williams Drive. So I think the whole thing is about 2.5 miles. Is that right, Alex? Something close to that. Another huge boardwalk system, and this is a very active project being built right now. This photo was just taken a week or two ago. Hoping that project will be completed late summer.
Is that a bike trail?
It is, it's very similar, same as phase one, multi-use trail, bikes, hiking, wildlife conservation. So that's pretty cool. I'm gonna be done this year. And here's another project that's been in our parks and open space plan for a lot of years. Getting some traction now, and we call this the Camrock Trail to Glacial Drummond State Trail. Connector path, Camrock Park is down here, Rockdale, Cambridge, and then the village is actually constructed quite a bit of the trail through the village and up to State Farm Road. And then we're just trying to figure out now how to get from State Farm Road up to the Glacial Drummond State Trail. I think this one's getting closer and it's gonna happen in the not too distant future. All of these projects too, or most of them, if you want more information, there's websites for all of these projects with more information. Here's another project in Eastern Dane County. This is at McCarthy Youth and Conservation Park. If you've been out there lately, down by Cottage Grove, we just finished last fall this new timber frame shelter down there. We put in some native gardens, and now actually Dan is working on concepts to build a new kind of nature-based play area down there next to the timber shelter. So I think we're looking at doing that. Dan, is this being built this year yet?
Hopefully this fall.
Hopefully this fall. Okay, so that's another project coming up very shortly here. This is a project that might go unnoticed, but it's a wetland mitigation bank. It's the first one we worked on, and this has been a team project with the Land and Water Resources Department and the NRCS. And so this project is kind of at the intersection of River Road and the roundabout on Highway 19. Probably goes kind of unnoticed, as I mentioned. But what I like about this project is Dane County Parks having wetland mitigation banks was actually a recommendation of the last update to the County Parks and Open Space Plan. So these ideas start out kind of just like we're doing tonight, is talk and ideas. But then this actually moved forward, and actually we're doing this now. So that was just completed, I think, a couple weeks ago. Does everybody know what wetland mitigation banks are? No. Few people do, if you don't. It's wetlands that are created and protected to mitigate, compensate for wetlands that are lost, either through farming, development, roads, whatever. So it's creating more wetlands for wetlands that are lost within the same watershed. Another project at Token Creek Park. We have a lot of fun things going on there. Most of you, if you go out there, know that we did a pavement restoration project out there last year. We're doing a second phase of that. We are also doing some planning work for a new kind of storage office headquarters type building. You probably noticed, I think we already did the new roofs. Yeah, so the new roofs have been done. We're getting new baskets at the disc golf course. We've got a vault toilet on the horizon for the dog park coming up. We're actually putting two in that, we're putting one in at Badger Prairie and one in at Prairie Marine next week, I think. And Token Creek is also on the list here too, for a new vault toilet. Anything else I missed? It's a lot. And then a project Alex is working on, and this one's well underway too. This is at Fish Camp Park, again down by phase 2 of Lower Yahara River Trail. This is actually a accessible kayak access to the Yahara River at Fish Camp. If you've been there, these are the net houses in the back. Also doing an accessible fishing pier here, and we're doing an accessible floating kayak on the river. So this project is underway right now, and this one is also scheduled for kind of a summer to a completion. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Alex to talk about the actual parks and open space.
Thanks, Chris. We haven't had a question in a while, so. Does anybody know how old Dane County Parks is, or it's gonna be? Like, it'd be a good guess, that'd be a good guess. What'd you say?
Stewart Park,
Do you know what year that was?
38.
35, so we're gonna be about 90 years old here. And in that time, we've had 50 years of parks and open space, plans. This will be Chris's 5th plan that he's worked on, this will be my 3rd. Jolene, this is your inaugural.
My first one.
Yeah, so, a lot of history, these plans kind of carry forward, a lot of the recommendations Chris mentioned, get carried forward from plan to plan, because some of these regional trail projects just take a long time to gain momentum, acquire the properties and things like that, so it all kind of starts with the plan, before we get to these pretty developed construction projects. So what is the Parks and Open Space Plan? As you saw, the first plan was completed in 1970, but it's basically a common vision for parks, recreation, resource initiatives, for protection throughout the county. And it provides us an opportunity to check in with community members, townships, stakeholders, our partners, and the general public. Gives us an opportunity to hear from everybody. It's also a requirement for state stewardship grant eligibility. That's a requirement that we update this plan every 5 years. So this plan is the 2025 to 2030 plan. And it's basically a snapshot. It's obviously it's a map, right? If you've seen the map, you'll have a copy of the map, but it's a lengthy report with recommendations. And those all relate to the recreation parks, the wildlife areas, as Jolene mentioned. And it's a snapshot in time of the existing facilities that we have currently, but it's also a roadmap to the future improvements that we're gonna plan for in the future, that we're gonna budget for, that we're gonna try to develop. And we like to say that the journey is the destination. So this update to the plan gives us the ability to kind of stop, take stock in what we have, go through the inventory, but check in with the community and really kind of ask for direction. You know, the directions come from the community members, the stakeholders, the local units, the government on where they want to see the county go in terms of parks, in terms of recreation and trail development. What the plan is not, is it's not a land use plan or a zoning tool. Local unit and government could adopt it, but it's not used in that capacity. It's not a trail development plan. As you see on these maps, these are very zoomed out. The conceptual lines that you're seeing for some of these future trails, those are just very conceptual ideas. They're not lines right on a property line that we know right where that trail is going to go. So they're just kind of big picture concepts that we're trying to achieve. And we only work with willing landowners and things like that to actually kind of try to acquire property and then develop trails. And it's not a park development plan. It's not a park master plan that comes later, as you'll see in some of these future slides. So it's also a lengthy planning process. It takes about a year to kind of start to finish to kind of get through this update. But it's kind of strategic in how we do it. There's obviously the public, there we are, the public input process. So we are right about here. During that same time, we go through and review our existing plans, review the past plan, review existing plans, things that we've accomplished, and things moving forward. Moving into inventory and analysis of the existing lands, facilities, Jolene mentioned, kind of all the properties we own, all the land, that all goes into it and gets updated every 5 years. And then we move through the steps here, compiling, organizing, and bringing draft plan recommendations back for public comment. That'll be a step that will be coming back to communities during presentations like this so that everyone can weigh in on this. And then we prepare a draft plan after we get through all that. And then the goal is to have a finished and adopted plan. This kind of shows it in a little different format with the timeline. We're shooting for a spring 2025 where this will be adopted by the county. So current plan update status right now in process, public input meetings, that's where we are today. We also have the online survey, I think everyone got a copy of that, that's open till I believe May 1st, is that right? And as I mentioned, we're doing our land and facility inventory where we go in and analyze and update all that. We also, as part of this process, look at population analysis and recreation trends analysis, because as you know, the population of Dane County is ever changing, as are the recreational needs from all the communities. As recreation trends across the country and across the state and across the region here change. And I think with that, well, I'm one slide too quick here, but we'll turn it over to Lindsay in a little bit to talk about the population trends and analysis of Dane County. But as I mentioned, the plan is actively being implemented right now. A lot of these things that Chris showed for current projects are past recommendations from previous plans. And so a lot of the recommendations in the plan will carry forward to this new plan. But we're here to kind of see if there's any new ideas.
Yes, so we're two years late basically on getting the plan. Does that mean there's no plan right now, or we're just working with the old plan until it's when?
The previous plan is still an active current plan. Yeah.
And who has to approve the new one? What's the approval
Yeah,
process?
the approval process would be the county board.
Yep. Does the Parks Commission first approve it or something?
Yeah, they'll go through the park commission on ENER and then on the county. With that, I think Lindsay's going to talk about demographics.
Okay, so I'm gonna go over demographics a little bit tonight and what we found within Dane County. So what are demographics? They are the statistics that describe the population of people and their characteristics. So we studied population size, age, and race and ethnicity. So overall, I'm looking at Dane County, we're growing and have been since 1970 when we took the snapshot. We're the fastest growing county in the state of Wisconsin, and we've got the second highest population, second to Milwaukee. So just from 2010 to 2022, our population's grown 16.1%. So why does this matter? Basically, we want to see that the consistent growing trends suggest the continued need for system-wide expansion and to preserve our open space and land so that we don't love what we have today. We looked at locations in Dane County where we're growing. We found that even since 2017 and projected to 2040, that the central area of Dane County, and which includes Madison, Middleton, Fitchburg, and then the northeast side of Dane County is the fastest growing. So right in here in DeForest and Windsor and Sudbury. So why does this matter? Why do we look at this? This helps us to plan for future regional park locations, connections for trails, as well as prioritize acquisition properties. We also looked a little bit at age, and we have found that the older population of 65 and over is the fastest growing population in Dane County. You'll know it's a great place to live, so people are aging in place. And the 0 to 4 range is decreasing. People are tending to have less children, so we just need to kind of grab those kids when they're young and get them interested in outdoor recreation if that population is decreasing. So what does this mean? We want to make sure that we're providing multi-generational uses in our parks and spaces, just to bring families all together and make sure that we've got accessible features so that people, as they are less able to get out into nature, are still able to access certain features within parks. And we also looked at race and ethnicity. Dane County is relatively diverse. We've become more diverse since 2010 with our white population decreasing and our Hispanic, Asian, and Black population increasing. Their Asian population growing the most at 1.7%. And what's interesting is that National Recreation Trend Planners estimate that about 72% of people that participate in outdoor recreation are white. So if we don't find ways to become more diverse in our outdoor offerings, our participation rates could fall. So why does that matter? So we want to make sure we're including all people within our parks. We want to sustain the future support of people, conservation for public lands. And we want to better understand what types of recreation are needed in our parks, as well as eliminate barriers in the parks, signage and access. So in summary, Dane County's population is the second highest in the state and is estimated to continue to grow. Our 65 and older population is growing, continuing to increase. And we have one of the more diverse populations within our state. So I'll leave it to Jeff to talk about recreation trends.
All right, thank you. Let's look at recreation trends for a few minutes, which is an important topic. So with the pointer here. Following question, Dan, are we ready? Let's try this. Okay, choose your one favorite outdoor recreational activity. And you got a choice of what, 5 or 6 or 7 different activities. So let's see how these rank. Oh, nature viewing. Oh.
Question. Like horse riding?
No, this is only just a snapshot here. So
Be trying to pick out the main ones, but recognize there's other ones out there.
yeah, we understand.
That is a shortcoming of hybrid or of polling. You can't really have a huge.
Looks like here hiking, running, walking, seems to be very popular, which is popular. Yeah, in Dane County and Dane County Parks. Dog parks always popular too. Fishing, horseback riding, mountain biking, all those good things here. So let's move on here and talk about some of the trends that we see in Dane County. So yeah, we go back to. All right. Let's talk about current national recreation trends here, just in terms of going from 2007 up to 20. I'm gonna go on the screen here. Go to 2021. You see that trend continues to go up. That's a good thing actually for the population and for us in terms of talking about that growth in terms of outdoor recreation. And it really ramped up here during the pandemic. Current trends here in terms of just some of the various activities show also an increasing participation rate. Going from again 2015 to 2021, that I camped, that I biked, people did, and they continue to do that as we look into the future here too. So national recreation trends here. One of the things that Dane County is unique is we get a lot of people coming from outside the county that live here for either 3, 4, 5 years in school, or they stay here pretty longer, and that gives us sort of a diverse opportunity here to work with the population in terms of different recreational activities that they like to do and how they do those on the landscape. So what do Dane County residents do? It's just a snapshot, by no means this is a complete list, but just give you a feel for what people do that are sort of the high-end activities: walking, dog parks, hiking, biking, visit a zoo, which is an outdoor recreational activity, basketball, fishing, those kinds of things. So we'll have more to share with this when we get into the plan itself. This is a snapshot here of trends in Dane County in terms of who's doing what. You also see here that in terms of the sort of timeline here going from 2011 to 2023, something happened here in 2020. Remember that? It was called the pandemic. And in essence, what that did is it shot up recreation activities participation for a lot of people here, especially for dog parks, lake access, disc golf, that kind of thing. And those trends continue in terms of sort of the pandemics. And then also there's some other things that occur also under recreation, like the weather, like bugs, those kinds of things. That also plays in the part here in terms of whether we want to go out and do that activity or not. anniversary. Dane County Trail Trends, same thing here, equestrian, stage trails, cross-country ski trails, so you can see the blip here that goes up and then down. Sometimes, like, for example, cross-country skiing, a low snow year, people don't ski, they go and hike there, right? Big snow year, 2021 was a pretty good snow year back then, it was good skiing, so people went out and do that more often. Recreation trends summer here then in terms of post-pandemic, people are still increasing their activities here in terms of rainmaking, biking and so forth. And it continues to be popular in terms of sort of the core activities that Dane County provides, disco, fishing, water access, trails, usually opposed to Dane County. Also disc golf, which is a very popular activity, even though you don't really see it too often in the landscape, it's really, really popular. So with that, I'll hand it over to Chris, to talk about some of the.
Jolene's.
Jolene's gonna do this, okay.
So these are some of the things that our department and the Parks Division are thinking about for the next.
All right, great. So these are just some things that we've been talking about internally that we expect you'll see in the plan coming out. Regional trail project priorities. If you look at the map, afterwards, there's big sweeping connections that we want to make within all of the communities within Dane County. And the one that is closest to your own community is probably the priority for you and your residents, right? All the people that you live next to. And we talk to many of these different municipalities and lots of people who really want to see these really specific connections get made right away. And we understand that. So how do we prioritize which trail projects come next? Oftentimes it isn't about a desire, it's about if we're right on the planning side. Do we have the land and willing landowners, and is it this critical connection? So you'll see us do pieces right in all these different parts of the county. But we're constantly debating internally on what's the next one, which one is the next one that's right. This next one on the list is improving accessibility and inclusivity. So as Lindsay said, speaking to demographics, and this is really important to us, that our entire park system is accessible to all. And so you'll see recommendations for improvement system-wide to make sure that we can meet not only minimum accessibility standards for the ADA, but make sure that we're offering a robust variety of recreational opportunities to everyone. One of the things I'm really excited about is a new division in our land and water team that's doing stream and wetland restoration projects. So Dane County Parks is part of a larger land and water resources department, but Parks happens to be the division that has the ownership over the public property, managing the public property. We have a lot of really incredible and innovative team members in the larger land and water resources department that are helping and leading the planning on an example like the wetland mitigation bank at the Cherokee Marsh Wildlife Area that Chris talked about earlier, and other projects that you'll be seeing an emphasis in our park and open space plan. And I think more projects that you'll see happening on the ground to increase wetland and stream restoration projects. We're very excited about that. And the same team is now measuring carbon sequestration for even our upland restoration projects. We all know that the work that we're doing has great benefits to the ecosystem. And for the first time ever, we're actually taking soil samples to see what level of carbon is in the soil now. And as the property continues through its restoration journey, how much carbon can be sequestered. And we actually have another staff member who's up here who does more of that work. So we've got a lot of questions about how that works at the end. I'm sure she would love to tell you all about soil because soil is really exciting. Renewable and green energy. So if you think about, if you've ever been to William G. Lenny Lake Farm County Park, you'll see our campground bathroom has solar panels. Lucier Family Heritage Center has solar panels. So we've got solar shelters. So not only are we just putting like a solar array on the ground around a building, but we actually created 2 new shelters that are usable space underneath while they're also generating electricity. So what can we do as park planners, park managers to incorporate some of this green energy production in innovative ways in the park system that are, of course, offsetting our electricity use, but also creating something that is usable and pretty cool looking, if you ask me. Climate change impacts on park and recreation. I know this touches on many of the things that we've already, I've been talking about, but how do the changes in the climate impacts the way people are recreating in the park? So a great example with that would be, is there snow in the winter? We cannot be cross-country skiing. How else are people using that property? I mean, this year the ground didn't even freeze. So what are our even internally from a maintenance use, what are our impacts on the turf? Just doing, tree work when the ground isn't even frozen. Can we do that? Can't we? We've got longer springs, kind of those and falls, those edge seasons. What new invasives are going to be coming into our properties because of changing in plant zones and new invasive species that we might have to manage. So those are all things that we're thinking about. Cultural resource preservation practices and policies. So just us as land managers wanting to make sure that we are respectful of the cultural features that may be on these parks, because we want to make sure that we are doing the best that we can to be respectful of those cultural features and really set a great example for how other landowners may want to manage around, let's say, mounds, etc. The pandemic impacts on parks and recreation is that increased use. We're still seeing parking lots that are overflowing, and we know that we need to spend more time maintaining those trails so that we aren't, like Lindsay said, loving our parks to death. And then how do we sustainably maintain an expanding system as we keep adding more shelters, more trails, more amenities? Internally, we need to just remember we can't let all of our older aging facilities fall behind in maintenance. So making sure we're, of course, building new when it's appropriate, where we know it's going to get used, but then still focusing on replacing the roofs and making sure that we're keeping up on all of the maintenance of our existing facilities. And then, as I mentioned in the very beginning, we are expanding our outdoor education and our strategic engagement community-wide, whether we're working with community centers from mostly the city of Madison, kids that maybe have never been into a park before. We're offering an outdoor environmental education-based summer camp for the full summer this year. So we're trying really hard to teach the next generation all about nature so that they can love it just as much as we all do, and care and be passionate about these parks, in the future for many generations to come. So there's a lot of different, like Chris and I said, staff level topics that we hope that you'll notice are woven into our plan, things that we've been thinking a lot about.
So to summarize, that's a lot of information here in a fairly short period of time. The things to think about or take away. Dane County is the second largest, will always be the second largest county to Milwaukee. But I think we'll also always be the fastest growing county. We are the largest park system in Wisconsin now. Used to be Milwaukee County, that too. Now it's Dane County. Fastest area is growing, or this area right here in the central area. I think that's going to continue. Important thing about demographics is the population is very rapidly increasing in the older range. Walking, running, hiking, biking, fishing continue to be some of the most popular outdoor pastimes nationally and locally. That hasn't changed. This is my 5th year, 25 years of these tunnels. That sentence really hasn't changed. That all the time. Nationally, what's unique in Dane County, though, or Sterling is mentioning, Jeff, we have dog parks here, we have disc golf, trails are huge, we've got lakes here, camping, so a lot of things are kind of unique to Dane County that are very popular in our system. So what do you need to know about the Parks and Open Space Plan? It's a countywide common vision. We have to update it every 5 years. We're gathering public comments right now. That's one of the purposes why we're here tonight, actually, is to listen to all of you. And the draft plan should be available probably fall. So that, I think that brings us to this next slide, which is how can you provide feedback? Well, one, obviously, so you're here tonight and we'll listen tonight. There's a written comment form on that piece of paper you picked up, so feel free to write something on there and just leave it on the table back there when we leave. That's my email address. You can send me an email. And if you want to send me mail, you can send me mail too. I don't get much mail anymore. All right. If you haven't yet, take the survey. Who's taken the survey already? Good. Super simple to do. It doesn't take that long. Fire through that. That's very helpful to us. I think the last time I looked, we've had over 800 responses to that survey. That's phenomenal. Just posting something online. So, we're here tonight to listen to you, and kind of how this will work is we've got a number of people who are participating virtually tonight. So what we do is they're putting their comments in the chat, so we alternate between live people here have 3 minutes plus or minus to provide comments, ask questions, whatever you want to do, anything's in bounds. And then with that, Dan, I think will read chat to us and then respond to those. So we'll get through everybody, and then Katie will let us, if we're going over, we'll be here, we have to be out of here. Okay. All right, so with that, I'm just gonna randomly call on people on this list, and then Dan, I'll get to you on the chat, so. Let's start out with Tony.
I like the emphasis, the relationship with climate change and mitigation and adaptation. When I looked at your original presentation, there wasn't as much information in it. There's more I saw in this particular presentation. The need that's driving society as a whole, and I think parks are a good place to emphasize it. Connecting communities would be a key element, of which I know you're trying to do. That's only we have opportunities and land availability and connections, stuff like that. But eliminate driving and going more biking to get to the parks. I think we should start that. Every time I go to a park right now, other than local parks in the township, I have to get rid of it.
Okay. Dan, is there anything in the chat yet?
We have 6. I will start off with Harry's question. I got there. Harry asked, interest in developing the old Lake Middleton area, also known as the Black Earth Creek Headwaters. This area needs parking and boardwalks. What are the plans and what is the schedule?
Yep, so. Very current project with us right now, actually. Not a lot of development there. That is headwaters of Black Earth Creek. It's right on the edge of Middleton. For development, we are looking at constructing a small parking lot somewhere off of Highway 14. We don't know the exact location yet. The gravel driveway that was for the residents, the farm that used to be there will become the trail will get back into the property, but very limited recreation development. That will not, it's a natural resource area, so other than trails that might also be fire breaks, very minimal recreation development in that property. And we're hoping to get some kind of public access in place parking by this year. We were, but not in Kansas. So it's pretty soon. All right, let's go to Marie.
I would like to comment on Dane County's acquisition of a number of properties between Verona and Belleville in the last couple of years, which are wonderful in your preservation of the Sugar Creek watershed. And definitely needed as more development happens upstream from that. I think there's a great opportunity to add equestrian trails through a number of that property, given its historical agricultural use. A lot of it will still be an agricultural use for years going forward. There's numerous field roads that already go through it that would really require little to no changes or investments by Dane County Parks in order to open it up to that usage. I previously reached out to the Parks Department about this, and they indicated they had concerns about the fact it'll also be open to hunters. And I would just like to comment on the fact that some of the best kind of like destination equestrian trails in the state, if you think about the Kettle Moraine State Forest or the Kickoff,
Valley Reserve.
yeah, Valley Reserve. And others are also dual usage. You can ride horses through them and hunt on them. And that has coexisted peacefully for a number of years with a number of properties. Vernon County Parks is another great example of a park system that has those two uses coexisting with little issues that I'm aware of. And also, I think one additional comment is that there's parking concerns sometimes brought up in that use, and just because there aren't necessarily adequate parking areas, I would say there are still opportunities to open land uses for individuals who can access it from nearby properties. Thank you.
Dan, is there another chat?
We had a question from Janice. How can visitors to parks get bikes to watch for walkers?
Get lights.
How can visitors to parks get bikes, bicyclists to watch for walkers?
Lights to watch walkers, yes, a sign. Definitely a growing concern of ours also, because our trails are getting so popular now, and they started out at 8 foot wide, and they went to 10, now they're up to 12, I think they're probably 14, but then you start thinking about the environmental impacts, you're basically building a road then. But yes, definitely, and now add to that e-bikes, people going even faster. You've got a whole push of people going through that are walking. Maybe they shouldn't have dogs on leash on boardwalks, but they might have paved trails, and you got bikers whizzing up behind them. I don't have a really good answer for that, Jolene, I don't know if you do either, we recognize it as a concern just because of the use. But right now, I don't have a good answer, I just recognize it as a concern.
Yeah, continual education on trail etiquette is really the only thing that we can do.
We do have trail etiquette signs, and maybe those need to be out there. All right. Let's see, Bill Keane.
Well, I was talking to you before, but I'd like to see on Marina property at some point, make that a water mitigation plan for flooding on Badger Creek into the Sugar River. If you could take a large portion of that, drop it down, you sell the dirt, make some money for that. Plant a bunch of plants down there. Even the whole north side of the creek on that property would be really nice, because yeah, when you have 8 or 9 feet of water come up in your backyard, if you have 40 or more acres, take some of that out so it doesn't get quite so high. Be great. I'd like to see the Davidson house. There was a bathroom there at one point. Be nice to open up that section of the house and put a bathroom facility there during the summer. I mean, we've already got. There's already facilities there, just fixing them up and making that part of the building usable for whoever shopped down there.
A lot of big changes right in that region that maybe we have to kind of rethink some things, especially with the recent Durst property acquisition. But looking at it as a bigger thing. Right, anything else?
That right at the moment, we'll come up with some more park and rec needs.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Dan, you have somebody else?
Yes, we had a comment from Kylie, who had to leave early, but put in a chat. Biggest point of feedback is to include some trails. Or is to include that some trails are less intensely managed, narrower, and giving the sense of being more remote. They've noticed and been disappointed with a larger loop at Token getting wider and wider every year, such that now it's more like a highway than a trail. Disappointed that the trails are being made for maintenance vehicles rather than vehicles purchased to fit the trails.
Now, another pretty familiar comment to us. There's a lot of people that think our trails should be like deer paths. Small ones, so that for maintenance reasons, though, a lot of them get wider, so we can run through very efficiently with the team. But what we do is try and provide both types of trails. Token is somewhat of a more urban park, urban area. But if you get out into some of our more outlying properties, you can find much more trails. good comment, and, very, to this. Chris,
Sure, so first of all, I would like to say, as somebody who, I spent a lot of time in Metutoka Creek Park, but also the Yarrow Heights, park as well, and more than dog parks. And I have to say, I just wanted to compliment Dane County Park System on all of the rangers and the employees, the maintenance crews, everyone I've ever interacted with have been so professional. They take the time to answer questions, and they just do a great job maintaining this park, so kudos to the park system for just great staff. And I have a feeling that's, throughout the entire company, this parks. But my issue is, one regarding, the dog parks, and in particular, ensuring that we get access to some fresh water. That's one thing that, especially during the summer, it's really hard on the dogs in particular to have, bring in water. People are leaving the milk jugs and water bottles and things, behind. It's creating a lot of trash, and people aren't really good about necessarily picking up that trash. So I would just like to offer up that if we could get that on the horizon of getting access to fresh water. Sounds like with the restrooms that are going in at Turkey Creek at the dog park, even if it's close by, there's access to fresh water that you can give to the dogs, and that would be my biggest issue.
heard that comment too. Note of that. Thanks for that. Dan,
Yes. Next one is from Maggie. Will the plan include anticipated priorities for increased volunteerism, such as anticipated need for volunteer training and management? And are you thinking about friends groups as partners in that, understanding that friends groups are widely variable in capacity?
yeah, so that's always been a part of the plan, but this update to the plan is gonna have probably even more text, because we've got a engagement and visitor services division of parks now that kind of oversees the volunteers and the friends group, and that's new for Dane County Parks, and in direct response to the huge increase in the number of volunteers and friends groups we have. So there will definitely be more language. I don't know the specifics right now. Obviously, we're just taking in input, but to answer your question, yes, it will be a bigger part of this. All right, Mark.
Combine something you had said, trails connect people, and you have other partners that need to walk alongside you, but in areas, the subdivisions are growing in, Forest and Windsor, kids being able to walk to school, be able to take a bike to those new schools that Windsor and Harvest, would be important. I applaud you for keeping in focus those who have the least resources to use the parks. Need to be the highest priority. They have the least ability to use the parks. Those of us with our 3-car garages and Forest and Windsor can get out to a park. If you have limited resources in your household, you're not going to, your children are going to lose that connection. And just because you're wearing a blue shirt at Quick Trip or scrubbing the toilets at Buc-ee's doesn't mean you don't get to use the great places in Dane County.
Great comments. Spot on. Dan, any more chat?
Yes. This is from Jonathan on behalf of Sun Prairie Parks Friends Inc. Would like to voice support for added parks and trails in the northeast quadrant of the county. And asked, is there any further information that you can provide on building out the county park system in Sun Prairie Cottage Grove area? That information would be appreciated. And then second half, be interesting to hear of any plans to make park near Sun Prairie McCarthy Youth and Conservation Park accessible from the city by means other than automobile, such as a walking or multi-use path.
Yeah, so a couple different questions there, and maybe one answer to all of them is, there's a number of trail projects for connectivity between all of those parks that were mentioned, McCarthy, Cottage Grove, Glacial Drumlin, that are in various stages. Right now, probably the smallest piece that we're working on, but most important, is the Glacial Drumlin to Capital City Trail connector going underneath the interstate. That project has been here longer than I've been. But we are getting closer to just connecting from Wagon Trail Madison under the interstate to Buckeye Road, which allows cyclists to get under the interstate without having to ride on Buckeye Road and bridge over I-90. So that will be huge. That project, if I were to guess right now, should be completed within the next 3 years. We received a large community development block grant for that, so funding is working its way into it, and we're at about 60% construction documents, so that is moving forward for the first time in a very long time. That trail is supposed to eventually connect to Fireman's Park and Cottage Grove. Cottage Grove, there's already a trail almost all the way to McCarthy Park, we're working on a little connection to that. And then we've got already the trail, the Georgia O'Keeffe Trail that goes from McCarthy Park all the way up to Sun Prairie. So all of these things, as Alex mentioned, they take time. We don't always own all the property, we have to acquire lands. And just designing, permitting, and building trails takes usually a couple of years in itself, so. We are getting things done, things are moving forward, and I want to give a shout out to Windsor, to Forest, Sun Prairie. I think the 3 of those communities have just done an amazing job of developing and adding on onto the county system and providing that connectivity. So working on it, as I always say, and we're still going, but still lots to do yet too. Jeff.
Hi, so I'm like from Mount Vernon. And we're in the early stages of trying to find a way to get some farmland that's in the floodplain adjacent to the creek, Mount Vernon Creek, to see if that could be included in the plan somehow. We have no money, of course. And but we do have timing and willingness to do the work to do that. And I'm looking for guidance on what we should do.
Yeah, is that the property they're looking at for community gardens?
I think it's more, probably wouldn't be a community garden, nobody has a garden down there.
Okay,
So it'd be more, restoration further up to.
is that the old mill pond property?
It is.
Yeah, so that property, and we've been contacted on that before also. Right now, the master plan for the park, it's right adjacent to our park boundary down the park, obviously MDNR lands there. So it is already eligible to potentially be acquired by the county, by friends, nonprofit group. That's already in the works, but we just need somebody to come forward to kind of move that. I think right now, the way it is, I'm not sure the county would buy it just outright to become part of Donald Park. Not saying that's not impossible, but we'd probably be looking for a partner to come through the Dane County Conservation Fund grant process, which if you added on DNR stewardship, you could get the property at least 50% funded, if not more, through that route. But would need somebody to bring that project to us.
Sounds doable.
On the radar, yeah, thank you. Dan, is there any more change?
Yep, a few more.
Yeah.
Comment from Stacy. The population is aging and many of the parks lack benches or picnic tables. Places for family gatherings that do not require reservations and places to sit by the lake and enjoy the views would be lovely.
Good comment. Alex, you wanna know?
Are you looking for more comments? Is that what you're saying?
No, we are.
We're out in the room. I have a few more online.
Oh. Hold on. Wait. I need my glasses down here. Oh, that's not Alex. The last name is Elliot.
That's Kelly.
What
It's
is it?
Kelly.
Kelly.
I was just wondering if there's any plans for new mountain bike trail systems in Dane County, possibly Tolton Creek Park. I know they acquired a couple parcels recently, one on Portage Road and one on Highway 19. And you know, we have one in Camera. If you go there on the weekends, it's not, I wouldn't say crowded, but there's enough bikers on there where it kind of takes the peace and quiet out of the mountain biking thing. It'd be nice not to have to drive 35 miles. I know they have trails in Madison on the west side. They have 3 or 4 trail systems. It'd be nice to have something this part of the area.
Yeah, no, another familiar comment. And obviously Camrock is one of the most popular.
Yeah, it's a nice part.
Little ways out. The other thing I didn't mention is the plan right now does recommend future development of a recreation park in this region of county northeast, a new one. And up beyond Sun Prairie and the Bristol area. So that's a comment I think we definitely put into that is, as if and when that park gets developed, it has to be something we consider mountain biking at. Right now, our trails are pretty well used at Tolton Creek. We have equestrian use there too.
That never gets used. I haven't seen a footprint in that trail in 5 years.
I've ridden in it in the past 5
Oh,
years.
yeah, you might have done maybe the one.
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen horses there, it's been years.
It's also really, it's only like a couple miles and it's extremely busy between just golf, the dog park.
Yeah, they acquired, I think, 30 acres on Portage Road and 40 acres on Highway 19.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's plus what they have now. I mean, they don't need a big trail system. If you have a 3-mile, 4-mile trail, and you do multiple loops, you get a pretty good workout.
Yep, no, and definitely where two of the rising popularity of mountain biking, that's a trend that's always going up. We also do have that, counter to your point, but we do have a recommendation for more mountain bikes on the west side of Dane County too.
Yeah.
Indian
Indian Lake would be a great shot.
Yes.
It's pretty hilly.
that came up, we just did a master plan for that park and. Could be really cool, but that park was really just kind of kept in place for the Ice Age National Scenic Trail corridor and hiking and just keeping it very rustic. Yeah. Good question. Let's see here, I better, first thing ask Dan, let me use glasses from that.
We got a comment from Daniel online, appreciating all we do for the quality of life in Dane County and for the aero modeling field at Badger Prairie. And just a plug for new FAA requirements for aircraft over 250 grams.
Great. Dave.
I'd like to echo what this gentleman said, that for the last 10 years, I've worked with teenagers from Operation Fresh Start who do a lot of work for the county parks, doing restoration work. And I think pick the majority or collect the majority of the $1.5 million worth of seeds that we have that are used to establish prairie all over the parks. Most of the kids don't understand that they're allowed to come back to the parks and recreate in them themselves. Some of them think that these are just for people to live out in the rural areas. They also don't have any way to get out to the parks because they often don't have access to bars or there's no public transportation to most of the parks. And yet the park system seems to continue to buy more land, further out from the city. like the Durst property that you mentioned is the biggest acquisition, 615 acres. So how does the Parks Department determine what new properties they're buying? And how does that fit into their goal of getting increased access for diverse populations?
Very simple way of answering your question. How do we decide? Parks and Open Space Plan obviously identifies the project area boundaries where we can buy land, so that's one.
Yeah.
I would say most of the time, it's willing landowners who present opportunities to us. And oftentimes that may not fit perfectly into the bucket that you mentioned. And then our other kind of our philosophy is, if we have to buy the land to protect it, we're going to tell them, that's what we gotta start with. We're constantly trying to come back to make the property accessible to more populations, to connect them with trails, but until we get that into public ownership, that's gotta be our first and highest priority. Always working to do those things. Now, if we have that, now we gotta get public use on it, we gotta think about other populations. Right, Ken?
Had a comment from Sean online in support of disc golf in the Verona area.
Okay. That's sports disc golf. Or would like disc golf. I think what's the closest disc golf?
Melbourne.
Albert. Well, how about disc golf? You know. What is that? Okay. Miranda.
I was somewhat, I don't know, I think just in general, you have to be especially as an additional use trails are being considered at particularly in locations where the county and or Parks Department has acquired additional previously agricultural use or forested land that equestrian trails be considered in those spaces, especially as Dane County becomes more and more developed. There are so many places at this point that equestrian sports can be safely practiced on, roads, public areas. And so at this point in time, I think our system is really one of the only places in this area that equestrian trails are available for riders aside from private lands. As those private lands become part of that county in many cases, ag lands, whatever, there are certainly opportunities to have very low impact uses that allow equestrian riders to continue to have access to those spaces. In most cases, there are opportunities wherein there would be fairly minimal maintenance on behalf of the Parks Department or the county to allow ongoing access to those spaces, or for equestrian uses should be one of the uses that's considered on a multi-use trail. Marie mentioned this as well, but I'll second that. I think additional consideration to local use trail options for equestrian sports would be wonderful, especially on the parks kind of on the perimeter or formerly more agricultural lands of Dane County, where I think often consideration that is a barrier to development is that kind of larger paved all-in trailer parking. Whereas there could certainly be opportunity for kind of minimal impact local use riders to have great use of those trails, particularly in situations where multiple trails are being connected on a trail system.
Yeah, I want to add on to that. So we did do a master plan from Kickoff Park. I don't know if you've read it or not, but we've done the Donald Park.
Yeah, I would just like to comment too, the way that you guys have partnered with local landowners around Donald Park is phenomenal because we can ride all around it and maybe still farm it. And from what I've seen, it hasn't been a problem, but it's great.
That's what I was going to mention is if you read the McCarthy master plan, it actually says to try to duplicate the same thing as Donald. And how it worked at Donald is it's actually the friends and the riders down there that contacted landowners to figure out who would do it. And then we did some kind of informal agreements with them, but it works and it's working. We tightened up some. But I can see that exact same thing happening at McCarthy to make a bigger system on the east side of Dane County. Because right now around McCarthy, you still got enough undeveloped and ag land around that you could probably build something outside the park that was significant. Token might be a little more of a challenge with the development there, but I think McCarthy would be right for people just like you to start that fire development. Try to get that happening.
Chris, you guys pay the landowners around Donald?
I don't think we do.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And I think we generally say we're relatively engaged, because the writing is fairly connected via, social media and other things. Both of us did receive notifications about this meeting, probably because we previously purchased
Yep.
trail passes, but we did not receive notices for the meetings held earlier this year. If
Okay.
there are ways to connect specific interest groups that are interested in those particular activities, I suppose I know there's the Friends of organizations or the Donald Equestrian Parks that are probably the ones that are most actively involved. But I will go and speak for many friends, like interested in helping out. So
and I'll just put a plug into if you want to join the friends of the Berkeley Park, they're always looking for matters. So you guys can be questioning.
good to know. The equestrian representatives.
That's what it takes. And
There was a follow-up question related to elaborating on land acquisition and funding for trails, specifically the Georgia O'Keeffe Trail.
right now, it's a concept in the plan. We don't have nothing active right now on that one. I think it's a super cool project, and it's actually kind of in there more as a cultural trail to recognize the history of Georgia O'Keeffe in that part of the county. But there's nothing being pursued right now. It's the worst part of the job. There's all these great projects, and we're working on some of them now. But I wish something would happen. This is really great. I think everybody here, everybody else's staff, I don't know, Tom, you wanna?
Well, I just want to thank everyone again. There's a lot of really good comments here. I really appreciate hearing, some of these to reinforce the issues of access for everybody that, our parks belong to everybody. So we want to make it so everybody can get to use them. So I appreciate that. And of course, you already know my historical, cultural type of comment already. So, thank you.
Dan, is there anything else?
Just thank you for the tremendous presentation. Otherwise, we're all caught up.
I think hopefully you learned a little bit about us tonight, and appreciate your comments and coming out. You can always email, call, write, whatever you want to do. Very good comments tonight. So we'll keep taking the survey through May 1st, and then we'll start working on making some draft recommendations. So they'll stay here as long as Katie will let us, otherwise. Oh, wait. What else?
Just flip the slide that end on your contact info, Chris. One more slide.
Yeah. And this presentation will be on the website too.
Got it for you.
Oh, yeah. You can call them. All right, thanks.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not enough to use the parks are open to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't get the march, okay. So you signed up like via